national budget standing at Ugandan shillings 84.4 trillion shillings, up from 73 trillion shillings for the ending financial, that is 2025-2026 financial. Now, when you look at the breakdown of this budget, the lion's share has gone into debt repayment or debt services, and this goes at 33.4 trillion shillings. And the question is now, if you look at the 84.4 trillion, you subtract the 33.4 trillion shillings, how much is Uganda left with? That is one of the things. Of course, still on the breakdown, you see that out of this money, the majority of the share has also gone into the issues of human capital development. We talk about the issues of infrastructure, and security has also taken the other lion's share. This morning, I'm delighted to be joined by, that is the socio-economic transformation crusader, Mr. Matua Job Richard. We want to understand, looking at this particular budget, we have seen an increase. What could this mean to Uganda? What could this mean to the development? Aware that this year's budget was read on the theme full monetization of the economy, and we're now looking at the issues of industrialization here. We're talking about digital transformation. You also talk about issues of agriculture. Then lastly, tourism. What is your honest insight about this particular budget, and what could it mean?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother. It is an important process to execute the plans of a government for 5 years, which are broken down into what we call annual plan. We are now running what we call National Development Plan 4. Which starts this year and will end in 2031. And that National Development Plan 4 is part of the medium plans we have to actualize the bigger plan, which is the Vision 2040, where we want to move Uganda from a peasant economy to modern economy to prosperous economy. Peasant economy is what we refer in our Were language, Chidonka, an economy of Chidaka. You can see the budget response, interest of government, priority areas, development needs of government. So I want to thank Minister of Finance very sincerely. I have become not a crusader. I know how to correct. I am modest, the reverend of socio-economic transformation, holding the flag for northern Uganda. So I am the flag bearer. The bishop of that gospel is none other than His Excellency Yoweri Tibuhaburwa Kaguta Museveni.
Coming back to that particular question, Mr. Matua, we all, if you can flash back, the former IGG, that is Bet Kamia, did release a report that averagely Uganda loses about 10 billion annually to corruption. And the president also has retaliated again during his address when the budget was read on Thursday, that even when he was in Maricha, I want to use Maricha for this particular point, since we're in West Nile, yes, and Bukwe. Those are the examples that he used, that during his tour, the campaign became issues of accusation, as if he was doing PDM tour. Everywhere, people accusing the technical team of corruption, embezzling these funds. People are asking questions now that this budget has been read. Shall we say the value of public spendings in terms of now the monies that are being channeled? How best do you think this will be achieved?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, before I answer that question, I'm going to answer it conclusively. Let us appreciate some positives in the budget. Domestic revenue has now risen to 45 trillion Ugandan shilling. In actual sense, we now locally raise, Ugandan taxpayers are able to raise more than 50% of the budget. By the time NRM came into power, in fact, 80% of the budget was funded by World Bank and other foreigners. Now we are,
including borrowing.
Yes, we are closely moving to what we call budget independence, sovereignty. We are now gradually moving to reclaim our economic sovereignty, which is the plan. Number two, in that budget, I saw 9 trillion allocated for transport infrastructure. That includes our roads, our railway, our airline. So now, I now want to respond to your question. Can we then try to deal with the vice, the enemy, the saboteur, called corruption if we want to have the budget to be implemented effectively. Now, yes, the president, when he was in Maracha during the campaign, and again in Sebei sub-region, citizens raised the issues of corruption in PDM. Personally, I come from Maracha. When PDM was newly launched, there were issues with what I call guidelines. This ministry will issue guidelines, Minister of Local Government issue different guidelines, Minister of Finance issue different guidelines. There were confusions as a result. So some of the beneficiaries, people went there, borrowed 300,000, 500,000. They were borrowing money which they feel they could be able to use it. So some people then got less money than the 1 million. So now the issue is that there was a delay in topping up their money to reach 1 million, because according to PDM guidelines, every household that is receiving the 1 million must get it net as 1 million. Even the other cost government is the one paying it for the people. So now this case of Maracha is one case that occurred because of lack of clarity in the guidelines of PDM by then. But then the question is, why have they not topped up the money for those people? That is another thing I request the authorities in Maracha, especially the office of the president, to be very aggressive to say that it is actually done. Now, corruption, as Betty Kamia Olive Namisango, the former IGG, projected that we lose about 10 trillion Ugandan shilling to corruption. Now, it means if you subtract the 84.4 trillion, then we will be left with the 74.4 trillion in actual sense. As a renowned, decorated anti-corruption crusader in Uganda, with history and record, I want to say it is very true. Corruption has now migrated to local governments where budgets are being implemented. Now, it is therefore our duty as the local leaders, the office of the president and the political leaders, even the technical people, let us now be at our maximum rate of alertness to see that the money which comes in the budget to do good for the people does what it is supposed to do. If that money is to ensure service delivery, can we ensure that these services are delivered? My brother, so in that budget, we have the money for Usimid. Again, Uchimid. You know, it was Usimid, now it has migrated to Uchimid. And a disclaimer to those who may not know. Yes. For Uchimid, Uchimid means Uganda cities and the municipalities infrastructure development. Uganda cities and the municipalities infrastructure development. We have money there which is going to come to the district or to the city here for Rural City. We are receiving 18.9 billion every year for 5 years. So I therefore want to say that corruption is a reality, but it is us, the people of Uganda, beginning with the local leaders, to raise our level of oversight, to raise our acuteness in following these issues, so that we can get value for the money. So the taxpayer should really get value for the money the taxpayer has put. The president also talked about drugs. Government has a policy to have health center 3 in every sub-county. Health center 3. At a minimum level, health center 3 is even a facility where women can deliver there very well. Now, we have now seen a trend, especially those of us in the border districts. We have seen a trend where health workers steal the government drugs that have been delivered to treat our people and then sell it in the neighboring countries. I was in Odramachako market at the border with the DRC. I got drugs from Omoyo and Yumbe. They bring and they are passing it through Odramachako. So we have already laid the network, and I want to warn the thieves, your days are now numbered. With me, a fierce anti-corruption crusader there. If I find you, your prayers will be between heaven and the hell. Because we shall not accept you to embarrass our people by stealing their drugs, which they are buying using their taxpayers' money. That is an absurdity. We must not tolerate such evils whatsoever.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been the conversation with Job Richard Matua. He just did again retaliate here that he's not socioeconomic transformation crusader, but he's a priest. A priest. For this,
an imam, actually.
And whistleblower.
One imam.
Yeah, so this has been the conversation with him. Of course, the subject here is the post-budget. We're looking at some of the breakdowns, but also what could this mean when it comes to the full implementation of this large budget. Many Ugandans are now watching to see, now that the country is going to implement one of its largest budget, what will be its translation in terms of service delivery, but also value for money when it comes to public spendings. Many are saying, many critics, many analysts are saying the issue here is not about now the resource mobilization, but how will there be accountability and also value for public spendings. So this is where we are really going to stop with the conversation, and of course these are conversations that will be continuing in our studios and in different parts of the countries. For now, allow me to say that this is where we end with the conversations right here in Arua City. Back to you in the studios.